folks, how's it going? Welcome everybody, brothers, sisters, final community. Today is 4th of July. Hopefully I can actually upload this by the end of the day today, because as soon as I'm done with this, I've got plans to go watch fireworks, eat homemade ice cream, apple pie, barbecue, all the fun American things that we do on the 4th of July. But before that, like I said, I promise you I'm going to start doing more content. So I've got a bunch of albums I want to show you. So let's start off. This has kind of got a very loosely American theme today. It's just I've been playing around. So there's a lot of these are American bands or, you know, cultural, you know, the culture of the United States. So what's a more American band than the Beach Boys? Now I have a few Beach Boys albums, and I picked this one. I thought I had Smiley Smile, but I don't. But I like this one. Out of all that I have, I might like this one the best. Wild Honey. This is their 13th album. Came out in 1967. And you know, you got to think about that. I mean, they weren't a band that long. I mean, when did they form? Like 61, 62? So we're talking like 5 years. And 13 albums in that many years. So, I mean, they were just knocking them out. The album cover is pretty cool too. I mean, I think, you know, they were starting to embrace psychedelic culture at that point. It's kind of trippy, you know. Still the Beach Boys, but, you know, kind of a little psychedelic there. This is their first album after Smiley Smile, and their last album that they had as Brian Wilson as their lead songwriter. And he wouldn't become their lead songwriter again until 1977. He was kind of pruning Carl Wilson to be their songwriter and producer into the studio. But this is a great album. They had been leaving their kind of surfer roots behind for the last couple of albums. So this one didn't sell that well. It was only on the charts for about 15 weeks. It had 2 singles. Wild Honey, which is the name of the album, and Darlin'. I think Darlin' was a little bit of a bigger hit. And if you listen to Darlin' versus Wild Honey, it's got a little bit more of a 50s feel, almost like a doo-wop 50s, early 60s feel, and maybe that's why. It's because people were wanting that old Beach Boy sound. This is a little bit more soulful. I wouldn't say psychedelic. I mean, it's got some psych parts in it, but you know, I think maybe their old fans were wanting their old stuff. There's a song on here you should check out. It's called I Was Made to Love Here. The late 70s, I'm thinking maybe 79, the Beach Boys actually remixed this and made it an 11-minute long disco song, which is kind of cool. I mean, I actually prefer the one on Wild Honey better, but I mean, it's kind of cool that, you know, a song from the 60s could still be relevant in a disco environment in the late 70s. And they were the ones that did it. Now the next band is The Doors. You know, we were talking about the Beach Boys in the late 60s, early 70s. They kind of, compared to these guys and other bands like them, the Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, Santana, they were kind of squares at that point because they were surfer dudes, you know, kind of the innocent, squeaky clean American look. And then we got The Doors, you know, the drugged out Jim Morrison. This is their first album. They formed in 65, released in 67. One of the greatest albums of all times. One of the greatest frontmen of all times. I mean, I've had conversations with folks at work, you know, who the greatest frontman of all times would be, and it goes anywhere from, you know, Jim Morrison to Freddie Mercury to David Lee Roth, who was excellent, yeah, really a great frontman. But Morrison, even though he wasn't flashy or, you know, jumping around the stage, he had that audience. He captivated them. Yesterday was July 3rd, which was the anniversary of his death. I believe it would have been 46 years ago, yesterday, that he died. Great songs. Break On Through, Soul Kitchen, Light My Fire. On this mix here, it's 6 minutes and 50 seconds, but the original mix was 7 minutes and 6 seconds. So I don't know what happened to 16 seconds to Light My Fire. The end, you know, I'm not sure how old he was. I think he was like maybe 20, 21, 22 years old when he wrote these songs, and it was really, I mean, he was really deep. You know, when you think about the lyrics on the end, my friend, you know, he's thinking death is your friend. I mean, that's the end. You know, for a person who's in pain, that is the end of your suffering. And who thinks like that when you're in your early 20s? I guess maybe somebody with chronic pain. And who knows what he was going through? You know, where did these lyrics come from? The next album, Santana, to all of our Mexican-American friends in the United States. La Cruz is a Mexican-American household. We are international. We value our friendship. We do not believe in walls. We believe in friendship and understanding. This was I believe it was their 7th album, and it's got a bunch of great songs on it. You know, I have a lot of Santana albums, so there was a lot to pick from, but I decided to go with this one. I love the artwork. It's nice and psychedelic. It's got some of my favorite songs on it. Gitano, Europa, Let It Shine, Dance Sister Dance. Just a great album. It was kind of coming back to form for them. They had went through a jazz fusion phase, which I love. I love those fusion albums, and I will show those someday. But great album. Maybe one of their last really great ones. This one I picked because of the cover. It's got a cool kind of a tie-dye American flag on it. Back. This is the Akron Family. This is a kind of a psychedelic folk, experimental weird band. They're from the northeast part of America. It's a really good album. I mean, they're a really good band too. I highly recommend this. Check it out at least. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. Just see what you think. It comes in a double album, but really it's not. They just put a couple of songs on each side because they want the grooves a little bit wider because it sounds better, and it does. It does sound better. It's just it's whether you want to get up and change the album every 10 minutes. That's your choice. The album is called Set 'Em Wild, Set 'Em Free, and they are on hiatus now. Not sure what happened to the band, but their albums are really great. Buffy Sainte-Marie, Illuminations, 1969. She's been active since about 64, kind of a folk, songstress. But, I've heard a lot of her stuff and she's okay, but I like this album. It's experimental to the point where she's got a Buchla synthesizer that modulates her voice, and it changes her voice a little bit. There's one song on here that was actually a single that I hadn't heard of before I actually bought this. It's kind of Better to Find Out for Yourself, and her whole voice, the whole song is modulated, her voice is. She was born in Canada on a Cree reserve. She's Native American. She's actually won an Oscar for what's the song? Up Where We Belong from Officer and Gentleman. She wrote half of that song, or co-wrote it. Didn't sing it, but co-wrote it. She's been around for a long time. She's 76 and she's still knocking them out of the park. And the album cover, see if I can get some glare off of it, is just enchanting. And the whole album, I do recommend this, especially if you like singer-songwriter, folk type stuff. And we gotta have some jazz today. Represent some jazz for the 4th of July. So one of my favorites is Pharoah Sanders, and this is his 7th album. It's called Thimby, named after his wife. And he was pretty prolific as well. I mean, this was his 4th album. Well, I don't know if it was his 4th album of that year, but he put 4 albums out that year. So, he recorded it in 1970, one session in 1970, one session in 1971, and it shows. The songs they just don't gel the way that they could. Like, first song is real nice and mellow and it entrances you. The second song is very noisy, and then you go back to entrancement. So it's a good album, but it has been critiqued by that, and I see that. It could flow a little better. Great album, though. Great guy. We love Pharaoh around here. This is the White Stripes, the Gold Dollar, Live at the Gold Dollar, number 3. What could be more of an American band, especially nowadays, than the White Stripes? And I picked this a lot for the cover as well, because it's the 4th of July. This is a vault release. Third Band Records. Jack White owns them. He created them. That flag that you see every time that you watch one of my videos, that is the Third Band Records symbol. It's a flag I got from one of their vault releases. This is a show from February 6, 1999, one of their earlier shows. It was released a few months. Well, actually, it was performed and recorded a few months before their first album was released. And they frequented the venue. They frequently played the venue called the Gold Dollar. And a lot of it's beautiful vinyl. It looks kind of rosy here, but it's kind of a whiskey color. A lot of bands that they hung out with went to the Gold Dollar. I don't think it exists anymore. But with the Vault release, I think it's a quarterly release. You got to be a subscriber, and it costs $60 every time you get one of these things. And it's a rare release that they give you, and they give you a few goodies along with it. So all these are highly collectible, and I go in and out. Like, they'll release something cool, then they'll release something lame that I don't want to pay $60 for, then I'll unsubscribe. But with this, we got a Dead Weather single. That's one of his other bands. Got copies of the set list from that night. A flyer. Picture Jack. Picture Meg. Newspaper article about them. You know, they ran in 1999. I think this is just like a little flyer for the show. So you get some goodies, that came along with it. It just depends on if it's worth it to you. And to me, it's worth it. I like the White Stripes. I think Jack White's one of the most important people in music right now, especially vinyl. He just opened up one of the first new vinyl pressing plants in Detroit. Called Third Band Records Pressing. I'm guessing that's what it's called. He's pressing vinyl now. I mean, this is one of the first ones to open up in a long time. And another great American artist, Arlo Guthrie. I've got a few of his albums. I got like a Greatest Hits of Alice's Restaurant. I've showed that before. And this one I picked up pretty cheap. I do enjoy it. It's got a bunch of good stuff on it. Hobo's Lullabies. Does it have a gatefold? Let me see. I got that. Sorry about the light, folks, but I'm not gonna. I know it's kind of a glare. It's got that typical 70s drawing on it. It's kind of cool. This one has got the most well-known song on it is The City of New Orleans. And he didn't write it, but I think he was the first one to put it on wax. I could be wrong about that. It's kind of cool. He's sitting there reading a Thor comic book. Got a baby there been crawling in the dirt. Your typical California hippie. Americana. Guthrie's cool. Father was Woody, of course. Now I showed Jimmy last week, but you know what? I'm going to show him again because he's a great American artist who is very well missed. You wonder what he could have done during the 70s, right? I mean, I think he was headed towards more improvisation, and I think the 70s would have been great for him and us as far as, especially live output. This is Band of Gypsys. He kind of, I don't know if he'd broken up the Experience or put it on hiatus, but he got a couple new guys. We got Billy Cox on bass and Buddy Miles on drums. Buddy Miles, I'm sitting here looking at this now in the light. And when I found it online, it didn't say anything about seam splits or names on the back of it, but I'm seeing all types of fun little things. I bought this a couple of years ago. I'm just noticing this. But don't mind me. Sorry, I'm just geeking out on my records. So he put this together in late '69. He put a new band together with Buddy Miles, and they did a lot of practices, and this came from really 2 shows, but they put on 4 shows. I think it was at the Fillmore East, and was show 1 and 2 on December 31st, 1969, and show 3 and 4 January 1st, 1970. And out of all that performances and music, I mean, it must be hours of stuff, hours and hours. They got material for this album from shows 3 and 4, and the material on this is not even that good. The most relevant thing is Machine Gun. It's 12 minutes long. Of course I'm not bashing Jimmy, but Buddy Miles sings a couple of songs. It just sounds weird to have somebody else singing on a Jimmy album, and sometimes Jimmy's in the background. You don't even hear him. So to me, it's lukewarm. But anything you can get from Jimmy is good. The Machine Gun is worth the price of admission. And the last one, we have the Belle at the Ball, Loretta Lynn, and who's a true American icon and country legend here. This is Van Lear Rose, produced by Jack White, and this happens to be a vault release. Now, it was released before it was a vault release. It was released in 2004, and he started releasing vault releases, I think, 2009 maybe. So this was just a special release for the vault subscription. Comes in kind of a gold color. It's okay. I think this won some Grammys or something. This was kind of her comeback album. It's a great album. And if you can just YouTube it and listen to it, I mean, he got her in the studio, and he got exactly what he wanted out of her. I mean, just a great, very tough, gritty album. This is not light listening. And as typical with your vault releases, it comes with some goodies. It came with a DVD. I've got that someplace else. It also came with a little pin that you can stick on your lapel. It was a Georgia Rose, kind of a peach color. And there were some pictures. Let's see here. Her and Jack on her front porch. And it came with a single on white vinyl. This one's called Whispering Sea. And this one's called Rated X. So that's it, folks. Happy 4th of July to you. I hope everybody has a great day, and we wish you well. And to all of our friends across the world, happy 4th of July to you as well. And we will see you next time. We'll catch you on the flip side and keep spinning those records.